Welcome everyone to What's Your Story. I'm your host Emmanuel Mutui. Today I have an amazing guest with us. I am very excited for this interview. Not just me actually, my camera guy. We've been talking about this interview for 2 weeks straight. Like we can't wait for this to happen. And I know you'll be blessed. He has an amazing story. I interviewed him a while back for something else, so this is honor for me to bring him to our platform so that he can just share with us his life and what he's doing right now. But without further ado, Joaquin,
Yes. Hello, everybody.
welcome to What's Your Story.
Thank you. Thank
This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. So let's just dive right into this because I know you have a lot to share. Where are you from?
I grew up going back and forth from here in New York City, Colorado Springs, in New York City.
Oh, so you've been here for a while then.
Yes, absolutely.
What was the why were you coming back here?
Well, my mother's side of the family migrated out here from St. Louis
Okay.
in like the 70s,
Okay.
when she was a teenager.
Hmm.
My father came out here. Um, he's an immigrant from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
My family immigrated to New York City. He joined the military with the intention of getting his green card. When that fell through, he landed out here. He met my mother, and then they went to New York City.
Because I just got my citizenship, and
Oh,
prior to that,
congratulations.
people are like, "Join the military, you get." I was like, I don't
Hey, don't
want.
believe that,
I know.
because he didn't get his, so
Okay, so it's not for everybody.
not for everybody.
So with this back and forth movement, how did that affect your childhood? Did you have friends, or were you always trying to make new friends every time because you moved?
Nah, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
I had family, both locations, um, a loving family. At that, I want to add that. And from that, I was able to develop friendships um, that became family members, right? So, a lot of times, what happens is we say that, if we have the same blood, that makes us related. But once you develop a relationship, that makes you family, right? So, I have an extended family that is so supportive, and they actually support me till this day.
Wow, that's awesome. So when you were coming up, where did you live mainly?
Um, that's a good question. I would say it was evenly distributed,
Okay.
right? But I would say I'm a Colorado, though, you know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But New York is in my heart. I
Hmm.
go back as often as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and if I could, I would live there still. My wife won't let me. But no,
Yeah.
that.
So when you were coming up, what did you want to do?
Man, there's some really good questions, man. I will say this, to be honest with you. I was
Okay.
heavily influenced by the guys I looked up to in the streets.
Okay.
So I wanted to be successful. I would say
The
that's what
streets?
I wanted. No, I just wanted success.
Okay.
And for me, what looked like success was the really nice cars, the pretty women, the gold chains, the mink coats, right? And I was unsure what how that was being attained. It wasn't until I got a little older till I realized what was going on to do that, and I thought that's what success looked like within the Black and Hispanic community. So unfortunately, I did gravitate towards that,
Yeah.
and I had success. That's the word for that in that world.
Yeah. And this was mainly New York.
Both.
Both here
Yeah,
too?
yeah. Even I was uh I was in the interstate. Let's just say
Okay.
that. So it was in different cities,
Mhm.
states.
So, and this is a weird question to ask, but how is the gang culture in New York different from here? Or are they
Oof.
similar?
Nope, it's night and day.
Okay.
So my gang affiliations here, it's more West Coast, meaning that um, it's really like I would say it's influenced by a subculture that kind of thrives on um, not so much like knowledge based, and it's more of like we're a family unit. We operate together. We move together. Whatever we do is together. And if you mess with one of us, then you mess with all of us, right? As opposed to like the East Coast, which is kind of similar as far as how they operate, but it's more knowledge based. And when I say knowledge, there's certain information you have to know. Like there's a book that you have to study, that you have to know, that contains codes, right? That ultimately dictates your rank within the organization as well as the influence you have within the streets.
Wow. So my girlfriend and I kind of rewatching the Godfather movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the mafia culture to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and so like the made man. Is that kind of what you're talking about for New York? When you know the codes, you're kind of a made man in top in some way.
That's funny you mentioned that. The head guy in New York is called a GF, which is a Godfather. In the West Coast, here in Mountain Region and further west, the OGs are what the equivalent of a Godfather is, right? So um, they hold all the rank and all the influence,
Okay.
right? And that's good. That could be good or bad.
Yeah.
So
So let's get back to the story. Thank you for that information.
yeah.
So you begin to gravitate to this. What was the? Because I'm guessing at the beginning you were kind of playing around. You were never like committed. But did you get to a point you're like, ah, this is it, and I'm gonna go all in?
Yeah. Um, I've seen a lot of violence growing up. Um, I would say I became affiliated with gangs around. I would say my mom would say 5.
Oh wow.
I would say about 6 or 7 is when I really started acknowledging it,
Okay.
right? And from there, once I seen the violence associated with it, I seen how serious you had to be. So I would try to pull back from that and try to be a normal kid and play basketball, and I did all that. But it was ingrained in me since I started at such a young age that it would always rear its ugly head up, right? If I hear people say certain words that were the antithesis of my gang and my beliefs, right, in my culture, it would arise like this anger, and I couldn't describe it, but it made me feel uncomfortable. So it was a lot of that. You know what I mean? So,
You were 6.
well, my mom says 5.
I mean, still, it's young.
Yeah.
Because I was envisioning, honestly, you're gonna tell me like 10, 12. But and let's kind of go this rabbit trail because I'm intrigued by this. And now, because I'm a soccer player, and for soccer, when you want to start training as young as you can be. So, I mean, as soon as the kid is walking, you put him in a soccer academy and
Mm-hmm.
they mature. And that I understood that. But now looking at the gang culture, I guess it is similar.
Yeah.
What is the at that age? What attracts you to that? I mean, I know you said the material stuff, but as a kid, material is not that important to you.
Yeah.
But so what else is
Uh, acceptance.
okay?
It's love. So the people who I thought were the cool kids, that were not even cool kids, the people I looked up to, get the cool kids, the ones that I deemed as that I loved and loved me, I wanted to emulate them. And at this time, this is actually in Denver, Colorado. This is when I got introduced to gangs like seriously.
Okay.
Um, and it was, you know, when the gang culture made its way from California, as far as the faction I was a part of, made its way to Colorado. And I just seen the way that they moved. I seen the respect they had. They had money, but more importantly, just how. I mean, I had a cousin. I have a cousin who I love dearly, and he would like still take time out of his day just to be around, right? I mean, I remember walking to the corner store out here, well, in Denver, and him holding my hand, right, just in case some drama popped off. Like, and it was that security and love that I got from him. I was like, yeah, this is what I want.
Yeah. So at 6 or 7, you become serious. When was it the first time? And I don't want you to share your crimes that you did because that's not the point. But was it ever a point you did a crime at the beginning and you were like, wow, I like this, or I don't want to be a part of this, or what was it? How did you feel after your first legit crime?
I say my first legit crime. It was like most kids that they. It's fighting, right? It's assaulting, right, and proving your allegiance, right, and being able to do that at the drop of a hat, right. So I wanted to. I seen the reaction from my family members who were like sicking me on similar kids my age or even older kids, and how they seen I was fearless, right, and how they were like yeah, 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 like encouraging it. And so the more it excited them, the more it excited me because of the acceptance piece of it, right? So
Yeah. So you start doing, did you rise up the ranks, or how high did you go in this faction that you're in?
When I got a little out of control and was fighting a lot, my mother actually we left and we ended up coming to Colorado Springs,
Okay.
right? So when we came here, um, she was trying to separate me from that, but my mom had all at that time. My mother was young when she had me, so she was influenced by the gang culture as well, right? Growing up in St. Louis, all that kind of stuff. So um, it was at that point it was just ingrained in me, right? So as much as I would try to pull away, something would pull me back even harder, right? It was just that. I think it's almost like physics. It was just like it was pulling me, and then it pulled me back even harder, right? So it was just like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
one of those situations.
So, how high did you go in the ranks?
Um, I ended up making, with the collaboration of my other friends, our own set, right? Which was different because we did it at such a young age, around 15, 16.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was a combination of different factions, different, same gang, but from different sets, different factions. And we were able to combine, right, become one force
Was that
under
here?
one umbrella. Yeah, but it was people from everywhere. So,
Okay.
like my friends in New York, they adopted that, even though they were part of another set. We had the same origins and the same group. So, with that in mind, I would say I don't want to say I'm an OG, none of that. I would just say that I was a leader,
Yeah.
right? And I called shots.
Okay. So a shot caller.
Yeah.
So you go, I mean, at 15, you're on set. How was your life? Let me rephrase that. Your relationship with police. How was
Oh
that?
man, the first time I got arrested, I was 9 for an assault, right? I had a. I mean, I've been getting in trouble, unfortunately, since I was around 9 years old.
Wow.
And I was thinking, me and my really good friend, who I consider my brother, we were both talking. We were like, I can't. I think I went all the way back to the fourth or third grade. From then on, I got suspended or expelled every year. Yeah, but somehow I still managed to graduate and still be on the honor roll. I don't know
Wow.
how.
So when, because of last time we talked, were talking. You said you went to prison, and that was kind of the when everything began to change.
Mhm.
How long were you in prison, and how
So,
old were you when you went in?
I was 22.
Okay.
I did about 8 years in prison. Um, Funny thing about that, though, I just finished doing probation in New York City. I did close to 4 years probation. Came out here to visit, 22 years old, and I caught a 15-year sentence. And the crazy thing is, I was also in college back in New York, taking care of my grandparents, doing all that stuff,
Yeah.
and came out here to visit. I think I was, I think I caught my case on a Wednesday. 2 days, I think 2 days after that, I was supposed to go back to New York.
Wow. And if you do you mind sharing what the case was for?
Yeah, robbery,
Okay.
robbery.
Is that mainly what you would do? Robbery?
So we were involved in a multitude of things, robberies, selling drugs. I was more of what we consider of a hustler.
Okay.
So sold a lot of drugs, and was pretty decent at it.
Yeah.
The robbery was just like I hate to say it was like the cherry on the top. It was like additional money. Um, and it was, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was definitely influenced by some of the dudes I looked up to. Like I would see, like, okay, we're doing this, we're making good money, we got the cars, we got all that, the jewelry. But then, um, you know, they would go to another level. Like, what is going on? It was because they were robbing banks and things like that.
Alright. So whenever you did robberies, what was your role? Were you the planner? Were you the muscle? Or were you?
That's what I'm known for amongst. They used to call me the brain. You ever watch the cartoon, The Pinky and the Brain?
Yeah.
They used to call me the brain of the operation. So, I would, plan it. I would observe. I would do all that kind of stuff, um, to kind of coordinate the whole team
Yeah.
to make sure that it was successful.
What will you look for when you're planning a bank robbery?
Bank robberies wasn't my thing.
Okay.
My thing was robbing stores. First and foremost, I would see if I had somebody that worked there. That's the easiest way, right? The second thing was Oh man, it's so much. You're taking me back to a different place. I've been so far removed from that lifestyle for so long. Um, you would also want to see, like, where's the police station at? If there's a change in what is it called, like shifts. I would monitor everything. Right, how many people usually come in at this time? The time that is the deadest on average. It was a whole bunch of planning that went into that. Which, if you fast forward, I used to be like, if I used all my brain power to do something and devise something like that, what if I would have planned on something else? Right? So,
Yeah, because I watched this documentary. I forget his name. He was a big mobster in New York, black mobster, and you will know. So his highlight to fame was when he did Times New York did a picture of him. He had like a
Nicky Barnes.
yes, Nicky Barnes,
Yeah, he's
and
from the Bronx. Yeah.
yeah, he said that, and I now forgot. He said that with I'm running a multi-million-dollar corporation. This is the exact same thing that people in Wall Street and all that they're doing. It's just in the different side of the law.
Yep.
But if you're talking about just black people, how they were very smart, because he had a huge empire.
Yep. I could actually create a program, right, to speak to that. We call it Drug Dealers Anonymous.
Okay.
So what I do is I identify drug dealers, right, or people that were once drug dealers, and then I tell them and I show them, hey, this is how a legal structure is set up. These are the day-to-day operations of a legal LLC or incorporate 501c3 or just your regular C corp or S corp. And I say, hey, doesn't this look quite similar to what you're doing already? Right? So imagine if we switch the product to something legit, how successful you could be, how much more at ease you could be, and then you don't have to worry about getting shot or go to jail. So we've been training entrepreneurs that have been justice impacted for the last year and some change now.
Wow.
We've had successful 32 graduates now.
Wow.
I believe like 5 or 6 now have their own businesses, right? And we were able to get them a loan, to which it's a forgiveness loan.
Yeah.
So they pay it back for 3 years. 2 years of it's forgiven.
Awesome. So, but we'll get into the more detail. So let's go back into the progression because I'm intrigued. I love this is very interesting to me. So you're in prison. What happened to you that made you change?
Man, so many things happen, man. From seeing people, get stabbed, seeing people kill themselves. I've seen 2 people kill themselves.
This is in prison.
Yeah, in prison. I've seen another guy attempt to kill himself, jumping off of a actual tier. He thought he killed himself, but he lived. So seeing that, right? But that like startled me to, hey man, I need to wake up. But what really changed me was just hearing the conversations and the murmurs behind my like back, not intentionally, but about who we are as people, right? So um, it was twofold. I used to hear all these real intelligent brothers talk about how we're descendants of kings and queens. I was like, man, I never like really knew that, right? And so they would educate me on that. But simultaneously, some of the other factions within the facilities um, were always trying to uh, push us down, right? Like by discrediting anything we do. And I was just like, where is this coming from? So it woke me up to say, I think I'm better than this. Not saying I'm better than anybody, but this present situation, I'm better than. So what do I need to do to prepare myself to really show what I'm capable of? One, and two, how can I create something to empower the people around me so I can pull everybody that's associated with me out?
Wow. And is that where you found Allah, or was it during that time period?
Well, you know, my beliefs have been surrounded by that since I was a kid. So, like I told you, I had like a really colored upbringing, right? My
Okay.
mother, who's African American, St. Louis. My father, who's if I can say it, a super Hispanic Dominican, like in every sense of the word, right? Like I'm the first one born in America. Um, but around that, specifically with my family from New York, there was influences from the 5% Nation, if you guys are familiar with that. The God Bodies, right? They actually had a school right there on 125th and Lenox. No, 125th and Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. So I was heavily influenced by them. And then my favorite cousin, and like who I admire till this day back in New York, he's a Muslim, a Sunni Muslim. So
Okay. So you already had it in you, and then when did it become like a serious faith and you took it seriously?
when I got around some Muslims in prison, my cousin back in New York reached out and he sent me um, you know the way to pray. He sent me my Quran. He sent me all that, and then my other cousin who's out here, who's a Muslim as well, shout out Yazid. Um, he sent me a prayer rug, and then it's just like
Yeah.
I did my first Ramadan, and then I haven't.
Yeah. That's awesome. So in prison, you're serious now. You're gonna be committed to Allah and the Quran.
Yeah.
What was now? What did you wanna do at that point? Because this is like all you've known is gang culture.
Mhm.
So now, what do you wanna do?
So first, and it got me in a couple of tips, to say the least.
Oh, with your gang?
Yeah, I actually was actually even cornered by my gang saying, "Now, once you this, you're always this, and if not, we're gonna basically beat it back in you." But I was courageous in the sense that I was like, "Well, I made my mind up. This is the direction I'm going. So, it's gonna be what it's gonna be." Fortunately, I came out unscathed.
They beat you
Um,
down?
nah,
Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't get beat down.
Okay. I
um,
know. I see you.
I stood my ground. They respected it after a while, and I'm still good friends with some of them till this day.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So
Wow, that's awesome. So what did you want to do after now that the cloud is cleared, you're clear to move forward in this direction? Because that's kind of
yeah,
scary.
yeah. Oh, it was really
So
scary.
how old were you?
I was probably like 26 at this time. So just going back into the story, I was facing 4 life sentences. Yeah,
What?
yeah.
That's
So
pretty much life in prison.
forever times 4. That means if you died 3 times to come back, you still got life.
Did you see? This is, by the way, I saw this prisoner died, and they brought him back to life. I can't say the word. And he was like, "I've served my sentence," because he had a life prison.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, "I should be free because I died." And then I came back. So in your case, if you came back, no,
Yep.
you got 2 more or 3 more.
Yep. So, because what they did was they attached kidnapping to my case, right? So, they gave me 4 counts of kidnapping initially. Fortunately, my lawyer was like, "No, this is incorrect." They got it down to regular armed robbery. But yeah, so while I was in there moving back forward, I wanted to do something, right? So I was so gun ho, and I was just like, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, completely going about it the wrong way, right? And to where I was getting on everybody's nerves. They'd be like, "Oh, here comes Joaquin," you know what I mean? So, what I had to do was take a step back and check myself, do a little bit of, introspective like reflection, and from there, I realized like, why did I want to join the gang, right? Why was I part of this? It's the same reason with them. So as opposed to going to them and saying, "Hey, stop hanging out with this person, stop doing this," let's change that dynamic. Let's say, "Hey, okay, you're in the gang. How can we make this gang legal?" Right? So how can we do something different? Hell's Angels done it, right? So the mob has done it. If you do the history on like Joe Kennedy and what they were a part of, they done it, right? So why haven't we done it? And so that became then my whole approach. I'm not so when I approach dudes from different factions as well as the same faction I was associated with, it's not stop doing this, stop hanging out with them, stop wearing your colors, stop saying certain words. It's okay, that's you. That's part of you. It's ingrained in you. But how can we do something different? How can we remove the criminal element?
Wow, that's I'm stunned. That's brilliant. But before we proceed, you had 4 life sentences. How the heck did you get out of prison then?
So I was charged with that.
Okay.
So I sat in the county jail for 3 years and 30 days, fighting tooth and nail to get these charges dropped down. Um, it was, I mean, definitely, I was very anxious. I was, went through a battle of depression, all that. Uh, what I did was, for me, I got into the legal law library, right? So everybody gets access to that, and I start realizing, the way the system is set up, what they do is they stack charges, right? So for all the young listeners, especially young boys of color, if you get in trouble, they stack it, and they do that with the intention of influencing you to take a plea bargain. So when you take these plea bargains, they reduce it, and they make you feel almost like you're lucky to get a lesser sentence, right? So for me, I'm in there fighting. They're giving me deals like, first it was, hey, yeah, you're probably gonna get life. That's what they say. Then it goes down to, how about you take a 60-year sentence? I'm 22 years old. I'm like, that's pretty much life, especially I have two young kids. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. They said, all right, we got a deal for you, man. We give you open 30 to 60. Oh, wait, that's not a deal. So then I was able to whittle it down to a 16-year sentence. And I thought I was relieved. I was like, but something told me in my spirit, like, don't take it. Don't take it. So I didn't take it. So I waited another year while I'm still in the county jail with a $250,000 bond. And I was able to get a 15-year sentence with reconsideration. So when they finally sentenced me to DOC, went to prison, did all the things I can do as far as programming, came back and they reduced it to 12 years.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome.
I'm gonna stop it real quick. So you spent 3 years in the county.
3 years and 30
This,
days.
this
Fight.
is federal, right? This is federal charges.
State.
Oh, these are state charges.
Yep.
Okay, okay, never mind, never mind. Because I was like, because when it's federal, when you sitting there, that time doesn't count towards.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why
really?
I was like, yeah, it doesn't.
And here's another thing too, though. They don't have to count that towards your sentence.
Right.
You have to ask for it.
Oh, but they don't tell you that, I'm guessing.
No, they don't. But my lawyer was like, no, he gets his time accredited to that sentence.
So you get this new approach on how to approach gangs and how to shift them from uh, illegal to legal. How was that first year of doing that?
Didn't work.
Oh, really?
Nope. Nobody was. Here's the thing, man. I've done so much dirt in my life, growing up. People didn't believe that I was completely changed, right? So, and I'm not gonna say completely changed. I used to hear a good friend of mine used to be like, "Hey, what you're talking about is good, but this is how we're looking at it. Anything that changes that quick is subject to being fake." Right? So they still respected me and they still love me. They would still come to my cell or I go to their cell, but they still was like, to the point, and then it started becoming a separation, right? So everything that I was speaking about and I was speaking to, it would fall on deaf ears, except to the guys who were a part of the opposite faction. They were more open to listening to me.
Because they
So
didn't know you like that.
yeah, they knew me for doing stupid stuff, but then I start having those friends, right? And so then, which is like a no-no, I start having cellies who were from the opposite faction, which in prison you don't do that. You don't really, and that goes across the board. If they're not, however you identify, black, Hispanic, or white, that's who you're going to sell with, right? If you identify as a Blood, Crip, GD, Vice Lord, any other gang, Sereno, Northsiders, that's who you sell with. You don't sell, it's just a no-no. So when they seen me taking different factions within my cell, they're like, what is going on, right? So that's initially how I broke through, by actually getting people from the other side to listen to me and be a part of what I was doing.
So what did they do when they saw this? Did they, obviously, I'm guessing they confronted you.
Uh yeah, but it was like in a different type way. It was more like them trying to really, like, they was trying to test to see if it was like real. So like they would try to slip me up, put me in conversations to see if I would fall back, right? So, um, like I said, I just kept staying true to myself,
Wow.
So, and what I did was to really separate me. I wrote two plays while I was in there, and I was able to work with some other Muslim brothers, um, to get it to allow the facility to let us perform the plays.
Wow.
And in those plays, I had Bloods, Crips, every faction, as far as the black factions, a part of it, right? And we got to work together, and it was an excellent performance. I think we did it like 3 or 4 times.
So, wow, that's awesome. When you got out of prison, now with this new plan, how did you form into a 501(c)(3)? How was that? Because you did they trust you?
No, when I got out of prison, I didn't, and I speak about it in a monologue that I perform. Um, I mean, I didn't have anything when I got out, right?
Yeah.
So, um, there wasn't really no trust. I didn't have no resources. I had a really good friend up in Denver, who's actually the CEO president of our organization. Shout out Robert Andrews. Um, he was able to crack the code and get into those organizations. Once he got into those organizations, he pulled me like, "Let's go." You know what I mean? So, and from there, um, I wasn't given any trust, but I demanded it because I showed it that I didn't deserve anything less.
Yeah.
And that's how we were able to navigate and get to where we are now.
Okay. And how long have you done this?
Since 20, I've been probably about 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
And could you repeat the numbers again? How many people have you successfully transitioned?
So I think our numbers is well over, since I've been in office, we're easily serving maybe 1,000 or so a year,
Okay.
right? So outside of the entrepreneur piece, we do job training, upskilling, reskilling, um, and we just help people get into careers. One thing I like to brag about while we're talking about numbers is that uh, within the state, people that don't go through our program, they have a 50% chance of recidivism. People that go through our program have a 3% chance of recidivism.
That's awesome.
So we like to really brag and push that. And on top of that, I believe 80% of the people that go through our program, they get a credential, right? And they get a job.
But what all? Because you're adding to stuff that you're doing. So just name them all so the viewers can know.
Oh man, we do a little bit of everything, man, because we're trying to rebuild the ecosystem of our communities that are vulnerable. We do job training, job placement. We do supportive services. An interesting number that I just found out, it's been maybe 6 or 7 months since our fiscal year started, and we have given out, I believe, almost $400,000 in supportive services. That's paying for housing, transportation, getting cars fixed, paying for people to go to college, all that kind of stuff. So um, we're really trying to push it, and we're looking to be around 650,000 by the end of the year.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And what's the name of the organization?
Community Works.
And you're the founder, and you're.
Nope.
Oh, you're not the founder?
Nope. The organization started 1995, incorporated 1996. The CEO president now, Robert Andrews, he came in around 2015. He's a really good. I call him my brother. Love him very much. He pulled me in, and then
Okay.
they gave us, when we came in, it was called Denver Works.
Okay.
So we rebranded it, and then we changed kind of not changed the mission, but we expounded upon it. So now we have a social enterprise associated with it, all the stuff to make us a sustainable organization.
And you're mainly in Denver.
No, so we have 2 offices here in Colorado Springs, one in Pueblo, and then we have 3 offices, technically 4, but 3 offices in the Denver metro.
And what's your role?
I'm the senior vice president.
Wow. So you've really gone up the ranks.
Yeah, I started off as a volunteer. I started off as a participant
Okay.
first, and then I went to a volunteer,
Yeah.
case management, site director, um, vice president, and now senior vice president.
Man, that's good. So let's talk about the other side because you mentioned you have 2 kids.
Yes.
And earlier you mentioned there's a wife.
Yes.
So where did you meet your wife?
I met her actually out here, but I wasn't here at the time. I was in St. Louis, and I was actually en route to go to Detroit. So I had a mutual friend that I knew that I met out here a long time ago, and you know how you link up on Instagram, you liking pictures and stuff. So it was this really beautiful, my beautiful queen, that's what I call her, that I kept seeing in all my friends' pictures, and every picture that she would post that she was in, I would like. and it wasn't even intentional. It was like subconsciously, and so she picked up on it, and then she was like, "Look, I noticed you like all the pictures with her in them." She was like, "I'm gonna hook y'all up," and you know,
How old were you?
I was just out of prison, really. Had to be about 31.
Okay. And about the two kids that you have, are they with you or are they with your mom?
Yes, yes. I had my first daughter at 15, 16, around there. And then I had my other daughter around 17, 18. So when I was incarcerated, one was raised in Detroit, right? Then one was raised out, went back and forth from like here and like down south a lot. So when I got out of prison, while I was in prison, I was planning on how I was going to be a part of their lives. So fortunately, I was able to convince their moms to, hey, y'all raised them this long. I've been going almost 8 years. Let them come be with their dad, please. And they gave me the opportunity. So I raised them. My oldest daughter's about to be 22 this year. Right.
So let me ask this. You bring in two daughters that don't really know you that well. You just got out of prison,
Mm-hmm.
and daughters are very,
Fickle.
yes. So how was that?
Man, it was. So let me tell you, technically, I have 3 kids,
Okay.
right? Because I married into my wife who had a daughter already, who I love dearly. That's my baby,
So
right?
three daughters.
3 daughters. That's the baby girl. Um, what was different for me is living in a house full of women, right? So you got your wife. Think about it. I'm doing nearly a decade around just men. So that was the hardest part for me, is adjusting to all those hormones, boy issues, and then I've been part of the streets and in prison so long. Uh, what they deem as being serious and what I deem as being serious is not. I'm like, I used to tell them. My wife used to get so mad, and so did my kids. I'm like, are you about to go to prison? Is somebody about to die? I was like, did somebody get shot? Then it's not that serious. I was like, anything else we can adjust to? They were like, no, it is that serious. I was like, ain't nobody dying though. Like, 14 of my friends have been murdered. So it's
Wow.
like, I don't get it. I don't see why y'all so upset. So
Right?
dealing with that.
Wow. And obviously you're a great dad because they're still around and they're doing their own thing.
Yeah, yeah, they're doing. One is in the military. Well, she leaves to the military any day now. She already sworn into the Air Force. The oldest one graduates from college next May, and then the youngest one, we're dropping her off in college actually in about 2 weeks.
Wow. So everybody's gone.
I just clapping because that's
Okay.
crazy. Like,
I thought you had a
yeah,
question.
'cause I'm like,
No, go ahead. No, no,
but
no.
it's like what you did for your kids was the complete flip of what you had to deal with, and I think that's just amazing. Like, at you said 22, she's getting ready to graduate. At 22, you were going in, so it's just
That's good
crazy.
connection.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, how does that
Think
feel,
about that.
honestly?
I think that's my biggest achievement to date. That's my magnum opus. You know what I mean? To see that, like, I, sometimes I used to get mad at him because I'm like, yo, I've been on my own, like, have my own place to stay since I was 15. I was in the street, like, really in the streets, paying car notes, stuff like that. And the fact that they don't know anything about that, I love it, but at the same time, I'm like, I gotta toughen y'all up, you know. I gotta really get you prepared for this ugly world,
Right.
you know. So,
So where do you find the balance?
I try to put them in like precarious situations, not to the point where it'll cause harm, but it's gonna make them think, right? So it's making them go into uncomfortable situations. Say,
Okay.
go talk to this person, or fill this out, right? Like all that kind of stuff, as opposed to me just doing it,
Yeah.
which they've grown accustomed to. Being that I was gone so long, I felt like my family overcompensated and made them like not, definitely not weak. 'Cause my mom was a really tough lady, but she made them to where they were like complacent or felt too comfortable. So I shake it up and they get mad at me. Sometimes my oldest daughter won't talk to me for like a week or two, but I do it intentionally because I know what she's up against.
Yeah. Man. But and also last question before we move on. Because we've talked about the comparison you've been around men, around women. Do you feel now like you, I mean, hopefully by now, do you feel that you can relate easier? Or actually, the better question is, when was the turning point where you could relate and feel how they feel and be a better dad?
I struggle with it day to day, man. I struggle with real bad PTSD. So I still try to find, because I have empathy. I think that's what separates me from a lot of some of the people I was around. But it's me being able to show it is another thing, right? Because showing too much of it in the environments I was in can get you hurt. So I don't know. That's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, maybe a part two. We'll
Yeah,
talk more about that.
yeah,
So you said you struggle with PTSD, and I know with Meek Mill, he really, I think in his last album, I know it was a while back, you really talked about that and how it's real if you grow up in in those environments. How are you dealing with your PTSD from just being there?
work out. I try to do.
I can
I,
see you work out.
um, my wife, who's excellent, she's a registered nurse. She's actually like she runs like a floor at this orthopedic and spine place. She's really good at listening to me, so she just lets me go off. Like if you come to our house around 7:30, you'll just hear me going like, "Ah man," she's like, mm-hmm. She just lets me go off, so that helps me a lot. But it's a struggle, man. Like even when I first got with my wife and we moved in together, um, she would always be like, "I don't know if I'm gonna be able to be with him," because I would wake up screaming and then I go back to sleep. And so she was like, "What is wrong with this guy?" And then, um, I've been in certain situations in prison um, where you have to sleep with your boots on because it's just dangerous and imminent, right? So I remember one time, it was the first of many. She was waking up to go to work, and I was asleep, and she tapped me because she was gonna say, "Hey, love you. I'll see you when I get back." She tapped me, and I instantly clicked into prison mode, and I woke up, and I was like, I squared up with her. She was like, "What is going on?" You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
um, she's been a soldier with that, but I've gotten better.
yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So right now, as we wrap up this interview, what are the two things that you're looking forward to in your organization, one, and then with your family?
Oh, man, those are good questions. Um, I'm looking forward to our organization expanding and becoming a national brand. I'm doing a lot of traveling uh, in the second half of this year that I feel like is going to help us expand to these different areas. What I'm looking forward for my family is being able to create something that I can hire them if they so choose, and create a legacy with them in a family brand. Just like you ever notice how like Gucci's a family name, right? Johnson and Johnson is a family name. I want something that they can be attached to and benefit from, whether they're in it or they're associated with it. You know what I mean? And that's just not for me and my family. That goes for my circle. I want their kids to be attached to it, to where we have a solid foundation.
Wow. Thank you so much, bro. This has been good. I love this has been one of my favorite interviews.
Thank you.
So, cut all this out. Remember, we all have a story. What's your story? Goodbye.